Hello everyone. Since we are in the beginning of December, I thought we would take a look at a tragic case that took place around Christmas. This case is the murder spree of Ronald G. Simmons, and it is heartbreaking and a truly terrifying story. And if you like true crime, don't forget to hit that subscription button down below so you can be alerted every single time I post a new case. Ronald Gene Simmons was born July 15th, 1940 in Chicago, Illinois. His parents were Loretta and William Simmons. When Ronald was only 2 years old, his father died of a stroke and his mother remarried within a year to a man named William Griffin. Ronald dropped out of high school when he was 17 to join the U.S. Navy. He was then stationed in Washington and met his wife Rebecca, whom he was married to for 18 years, and they had 7 children together. And in 1963, Ronald left the Navy and joined the Air Force 2 years later. He retired in 1979 with the rank of Master Sergeant and received many awards for his service. And it seemed as if Ronald lived a relatively normal life. He was in the Army, he, had a large family, he was married, and that's a pretty typical, American experience. A man was in the military, especially during that time, like the 50s through like the 80s. The man would be in the military, the wife would stay home and raise the children, and it all seemed relatively normal, and they seemed like a good family. And that all changed on April 3rd, 1981, when Ronald was investigated for impregnating his daughter. The investigation began by the Cloudcraft, New Mexico Department of Human Services, and allegations were made against Ronald for fathering a child with his 17-year-old daughter Sheila. Ronald had been sexually abusing Sheila for many years, and unfortunately this was just the beginning of her problems with her father. Ronald and his family fled their home in New Mexico in 1981 and moved to Ward, Arkansas, before eventually living in Dover, Arkansas by the summer of 1983. The family lived on a large farm that was 13 acres, and the family lived in a home constructed of 2 mobile homes joined together. Ronald never installed a telephone nor plumbing, but he did install a privacy fence that was 10 feet tall to avoid capture. Over the years, Ronald worked at several low-paying jobs, and he quit a position at a motor freight company after he was reported on several times for inappropriate sexual advances. His last job was at Sinclair Mini Mart, which he quit December 18th, 1987, right before he decided to take the lives of his entire family. On December 22nd, Ronald killed his wife Rebecca and oldest son Gene by killing them with a .22 caliber pistol. He then strangled his 3-year-old granddaughter Barbara before dumping their bodies in a cesspit he forced his children to dig previously. And a cesspit, for those of you who don't know, is basically a receptacle for human waste for those who may live off the grid, or for people who live in really rural areas who don't have access to plumbing like you would in a more urban or neighborhood type area. So this is for people that live way out in the boondocks, and he could have installed a lot of these things, it said in some of the investigation reading, but he chose not to completely stay off the grid, most likely to avoid getting captured at all. But this basically means that he dumped his family in a cesspit full of human waste. Ronald waited for his other children to come back home, and when they arrived, he told them he had Christmas presents for them, but he wanted each of them to receive their presents privately. He first strangled and drowned his 17-year-old daughter Loretta in a rain barrel, which is used to collect rainwater for the family to use. He killed his 3 other children, Eddie, Marianne, and Becky, the same way. A few days went by, and the rest of his family came to visit on December 26th. Ronald shot and killed his son Billy and his wife Renata. He then strangled and drowned their 20-month-old son Trey. He then shot and killed his oldest daughter Sheila after years of sexually assaulting her. He also shot and killed Sheila's husband Dennis and the 7-year-old child he fathered with Sheila named Sylvia. Lastly, he killed his 21-month-old grandson Michael. Ronald then laid out the bodies of his family in the living room and covered most of them in coats, besides Sheila, who he covered in his wife Rebecca's favorite tablecloth. Ronald then took his 2 grandsons and wrapped them in plastic and left them outside in abandoned cars at the edge of his property. He then went out for a few hours and had a couple drinks at a local bar. After that, he returned home and seemingly drank and watched TV in the living area where all of the bodies were for the next 2 days. The story gets even more frustrating at this point because at the time, nobody knew he committed these crimes. Mostly because his family was cut off from the world and nobody knew they were living in Arkansas, so nobody would call to check up on them or even knew where his family was at this point. So he was able to get away with it up until this point. And on the morning of December 28th, Ronald drove to Russellville, Arkansas, and walked into a law office and shot the receptionist Kathy Kendrick. Ronald had previously flirted with Kathy and made many advances on her, but Kathy had rejected him. Ronald then went to a local oil company office and shot and killed a man named J.D. Chaffin and wounded the owner, Rusty Taylor. Ronald then drove to a convenience store where he previously worked and shot and wounded 2 more people. Finally, Ronald went to the office of his former employer, Woodline Motor Freight, and shot and wounded a woman. Ronald then sat in the office and chatted with the secretary while he waited for the police to arrive. Ronald was able to be arrested without any resistance and handed over his gun to the police. And it is absolutely shocking to me that Ronald was able to make his way around that entire town and shoot and wound and kill 2 more people. I just find that so sad, and it seems like it's a pretty small town when I looked it up. So I'm assuming it took a while for the police to find out what was going on. I'm assuming that nobody heard him shoot Kathy and kill Kathy, and it just took some time for them to find out exactly what happened. So I just find this so sad and, just really scary. Imagine being that secretary, knowing that he just shot someone at your job and you have to sit there and talk to him and chat it up with him and hope that he doesn't hurt you too until the police arrive. That is so scary, and I couldn't even imagine going through that. So this is such a tragic story, especially for it to take place, on the week of a holiday, on Christmas, at a time where you should be spending time with your family or loved ones, the people you care about, the people you feel like you can trust. And another thing that really is frustrating to me, and of course I never want to place any blame on victims because you never know what somebody's story is and what they went through, but I just really wonder what it was like for their children, because Rebecca knew that Ronald assaulted their daughter Sheila, and she helped him escape and she moved with him. And so I just wonder if she wasn't upset about that, or if she just kind of went along with his behaviors, or what their family was like before this, because it seems as if he just snapped in a way. So I find that really horrifying, and I'm also just really curious to see what his wife was like, what she was okay with, and if she was violent as well. That just makes me always curious, and of course not blaming her in any way, shape, or form, but it just it seems really odd for him to just snap one day and kill his family. So but a lot of times people who go to war and experience the military, they suffer from really intense mental illness after that. So it's always important to get help after leaving any sort of military role, because that is very hard on somebody's mind. Ronald was tried and quickly found guilty of 16 counts of murder. He was sentenced to death and did not wish to appeal this charge, stating, quote, "To those who oppose this death penalty, in my particular case, anything short of death would be cruel and unusual punishment," end quote. Against his wishes, another death row inmate, Jonas Whitmore, attempted unsuccessfully for the appeal of Ronald's case. This became a subject for the Supreme Court case Whitmore v. Arkansas, which states that an individual cannot file a case as a friend of the appellant unless they had a prior relationship before the crime was committed. And while in prison, Ronald was often separated from the other prisoners as his life was threatened constantly. The other death row inmates were angry because he refused to appeal his death sentence, and they believed it would hurt their chances of beating their own death sentence. On May 31st, Arkansas Governor and later President Bill Clinton signed Ronald's execution warrant, and on June 25th, 1990, Ronald died by lethal injection. So let me know what you all think about this case. I find it just so sad and, again, completely avoidable. You know, I, again, don't like to question a victim or anything like that, but it does feel like this could have been completely, you know, not ever happening if. So let me know what you all think about this case, what you think about all of this. I find it so sad and, again, just totally avoidable. You know, when Ron was getting questioned about Sheila and impregnating her, I just wish that, you know, he could have been arrested then and this could have never happened. But again, it's hard to say, because a lot of times when somebody's with a partner who is very dangerous like this, you know, get that Stockholm syndrome and you become very like involved with their behaviors and things like that. So, you know, again, I don't ever like to place blame on any victims or anything like that, but I do wish that this was completely avoidable, because that's so sad. I mean, he killed literally everybody in his family, the kids and everything, and it's just so sad. And then he went out to kill other people in the town. So it's just really sad and terrible that this happened. And you know, I just find this case so bizarre and just weird, just seeing somebody who's like a grandfather and a father just snapping one day and killing everybody. So that's really scary. But let me know what you all think about this case. If you found it interesting, if I missed any important details, please let me know. It's interesting to talk to you guys back and forth in the comments, because sometimes I hear things that I didn't read online and things that I didn't see in any of my sources. So I always like to hear what you guys have to say about them. And if there are any other cases you all would like me to cover, please leave them in the comments below as well. I always like to hear what cases you guys are interested in, because I've heard a lot of really interesting ones from you guys. So thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great holiday season and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.